Good morning, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Preventing Runovers and Backovers webinar series. This is part 2 of 2. My name is Paula Hyman, and I'm from the Ohio LTAP office. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items, same as yesterday. If you have questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and put them into the questions box so you know where it's located. Go ahead and find it now, type a hello, hi. And again, our presenter will address your questions periodically throughout the presentation. If you need today's presentation, it is available for download in the handout section. It's provided to you with the note section available for you to take notes on it. If for some reason you're unable to download the handouts, put your email address in the questions box and I will email it to you. Following the presentation today, there is a post-training survey that will come out and a test. Okay, attendance verification for both days will be made, and those qualified attendees will be sent the instructions to complete the post-training exam. Thank you in advance for your participation with that. I'm going to pass things off to Robinson Vasquez, Safety Business Developer and Training Manager with the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. Robinson?
Thank you so much, Paula, and welcome everybody again to this second part of the Preventive Runovers and Backover training. We were talking yesterday about the big picture, okay? We need to talk about the idea of how can we create an internal traffic control plan to reduce runovers and backovers, especially in the roadway construction industry, and very focused on the activity area, on our own traffic, because we don't have rules from OSHA or FHWA about the traffic inside of the war zone, so we need to create our own rules. So we were talking about workers on foot. What kind of rules can we create for workers on foot, pedestrians, workers? Especially, let's train them, teach them about blind spots, teach them about visibility, how important is visibility, to use the high visibility vests all the time. Class 2 minimum, class 3 recommended. Talking about sometimes we can be in the clear area, open area, and we assume that the operator can see us, and actually we are not sure about it. So we recommend workers to also be sure that the operator is watching them, maybe with a radio communication or a hand signals, and wait for the operator to use a hand signal and stop the vehicle to allow you to walk in the area and talk with them. Because we have accidents just on open side areas because the operator was so focused on his or her activities that he couldn't realize that there was a worker around. So we were talking about workers on foot also from the risk perspective. Whenever we have any thing out of common, any surprise, any distraction, it is possible to have more incidents. So risks can increment if we have any kind of distraction. For example, a crash, an accident, an incident outside of the war zone. People usually workers are distracted, and we need to teach them to be focused, because in that time, regular people have more accidents. Then we talk about what rules can we create with our operators, especially with the operators. So just some basic rules before start working. Go around the vehicle, review that everything is okay, talk with the other workers that he or she is going to start working. Think about the mechanic of the vehicle. If there is something that in the motor, the brakes, the gear that you need to change or repair, do it first. Review that all the safety measures are working properly. For example, the backup alarm, the stop lights, the backing up lights. Use a spotter whenever it's possible, especially if you are doing, of course, backing up operations. Minimize backing up operations. It should be a rule for everybody. Minimize backing up operations. If you have to back up, you need to control the the vision about what's happening behind you. If you have a camera, some technology, great. If you don't, we use a spotter. Use a spotter and create a sort of rules with the spotter. Usually we need to create a rule about the sign signals that we are using. How are we going to communicate each other when we are spotting? The spotter should be always in the left side of the operator. There should be a visual contact all the time between the operator and the spotter. If the spotter cannot see or the operator cannot see the spotter, the operator should stop immediately and find the spotter. If the spotter needs to go to any place and leave his position for a while, he has to disclose it to the operator before leaving the area. Spotters need a special training, also similar to flaggers. They are traffic control personnel. There are authorities in the area controlling the traffic inside of the war zone, and so on. So we were talking about all these things, all these rules that we have to create, especially with workers on foot and operators, to prevent runovers and backovers. Now we are going to continue with another problem that we have in the war zone. We are going to talk about the access and egress zones or exit zones. Okay. So the idea is that think about it. If you were a truck driver arriving to the war zone, you need a clear access zone where to arrive, because you are driving maybe in the highway 50 miles an hour. What problems could happen? So maybe the nature of the soil is going to change. You are driving on pavement, regular pavement, and suddenly you are going to arrive to a war zone in which you have a regular soil, dirt, sand sometimes, and the vehicle is not going to work the same. The brakes are not going to work the same. It could be worse if we have workers in the access zone, or parking vehicles in the access zone, or just equipment working in the access zone. It could create a problem for the operator. Okay. So what are our objectives today? Explain the main safety problems of access and egress areas in the war zone, provide solutions to the access and egress safety problems in the war zone. So we're going to discuss some cases of problems that we have when operators are arriving to the war zone or leaving the war zone, access and exit zones. Okay. So why is access and egress control important? Because we can have problems here. Access to and egress from worker zones present significant challenges. Hazards are compounded when the roadway carriers high traffic volumes or operates at high traffic speeds. So you are in a high volume or high speed area, and you need to arrive inside the war zone. Maybe, for example, a distracted driver motorist is following you, so you have a motorist intrusion there. Okay, maybe you need to use the brakes suddenly to arrive to the war zone, and maybe a distracted driver behind you is not going to react on time, and you are going to have some problems there. So proximity of workers on foot to access and egress locations also, it's a problem. You're arriving and suddenly there is a worker, a distracted worker in the access zone. You are going to need to use the brakes to prevent an accident. So maybe you are going to have an accident. So it's important. We have accidents happening at the moment in which a dump truck especially arrives to the war zone or are leaving the war zone. So usually dump trucks are providing all the materials, so we have a lot of traffic with dump trucks. They have to deliver the materials in an efficient and safety way in the war zone. Okay, so sometimes we have some challenges here: the nature of the soil, the inclination of the surface, the clear signals. Sometimes we don't have clear signals. So sometimes we have this kind of problem, acceleration or deceleration lanes short or non-existent. So they sometimes we have to equalize when the operator is leaving the work zone. He needs to equalize the speed of the roadway he is arriving. Signage indicating merge exit points. Sometimes we don't have clear signs, or they're confusing, or they're uh, on all the time and we don't have workers in the area. So flagging operations, also be careful about it, especially in high volume, high speed areas. Try to minimize flagging operations. That's why it works best with low traffic and moderate trucks. Low trucks, intermittent flagging, proper rules are forgotten sometimes. So a night work, okay? If all these challenges are difficult, they could become worse at night. So high visibility, clear signals, uh, proper lighting for working at night, they are very important for motorists or operators, workers, and everybody involved in the war zone. Okay. So again, this is an access zone. Defining an access zone, um, we are expecting operators to arrive with dump trucks in these areas, and suddenly, if they don't have clear areas, we could have accidents in these places. So we have all these deficiencies in the area. So how does this apply to internal traffic control plans? Access and egress challenges can be addressed by an internal traffic control plan in the following ways. Isolating workers on foot from trucks and equipment. Okay, separate workers on foot from trucks and equipment. Limiting or controlling vehicles access points. So only one access point and only one exit point. If we have several access points, it could be confusing for not only for the operators, but for the workers inside of the work zone. We recommend having only one access zone and only one exit zone. Then coordinating truck and equipment movements. Okay, for example, trucks waiting to deliver materials, we need to think about where are they going to wait while they are in the war zone ready to deliver materials. How are we going to organize the traffic of these vehicles? What distance between one truck and another we have to keep to just to prevent blind spot incidents. Then providing guidance to workers on foot, truck drivers, and equipment operators. It is important the internal traffic control plan to communicate everybody, all the stakeholders involved in the work zone about what is the plan. So knowledge is important. If people know what to expect in a work zone, where is the access zone, where is the parking area, where is the waiting area or the truck lane areas wait for delivering materials, it is going to help a lot everybody to do their job safely. Then designating locations for parked vehicles and equipment. Yep, raising awareness about vehicles intrusion with workers and operators, drivers. Sometimes, motorists are distracted and they can penetrate the work area, the work zone, and we have to be careful and aware about these situations. So how to prevent this kind of incidents. We have one challenge. The first challenge that we found is this: trucks entering the work zone put motorists and those on other side of wall at risk. So think about it. This dump truck is going to arrive to the work zone. We have in the middle of traffic. People can follow the truck accidentally. Distracted drivers can follow them. Also, it's possible to have accidents in the work zone. As I told you yesterday, around 850 people total died. We have fatalities in work zones, not only workers but also pedestrians, drivers, motorists, operators in the war zone. So we are talking about accidents outside of the war zone that can affect people inside of the war zone. Okay, some solutions that we have from the internal traffic control plan perspective: training truckers to pay attention to workspace dynamics. Okay, recognize how big is the war zone, what are the areas in which they have to drive inside the war zone to, what are the distance when they are arriving, what is the access zone again. Then instruct workers to stay clear of access and egress points. Okay, we were talking about it, but we have to enforce it. Make it clear with workers: I don't want workers on foot in this area. This is access zone. Okay, if you need to work in this area, the foreman, the competent person, should close the area and create another access zone. But we cannot allow workers, pedestrians, people, vehicles to be parked in the area, or machines working in the area in the access zone area. Okay, it should be clear. Instruct employees on proper location for parking and staging vehicles. Okay, if we don't create a rule, people are going to park wherever they want. So we have to create specific areas for parking inside of the war zone. But sometimes they just arrive and in the access zone, and they leave the vehicle there in the access zone, and they are not thinking about the traffic that they are waiting in the area for dump trucks, for example. So they have to put all their vehicles, the parking zone should be far away from the access zone, or a special area that doesn't create a problem for vehicles arriving to the war zone. So another challenge that we have with access and exit zones is trucks queued inside the war zone creates obstacles for workers and operators. Okay, look, again, we are talking about blind spots. Okay, you have in this queue of tracks, we can realize we have multiple blind spots, and we don't want workers to walk in this area. Okay, so some solutions that we can have for this situation: if, for example, if queues threaten to block access and egress locations, queues should be redirected, or different access and egress spots should be opened and identified for drivers to use. So we have this situation. Apparently we have, this is the access zone, it's open. We are waiting for more dump trucks to arrive to this place, and they are not going to have enough space to stop the vehicle. Okay, if we have this situation, maybe you have to close this access zone and create another access zone, providing more space for the dump trucks to be put on the line. But if suddenly we are asking dump trucks to arrive and use the brakes and prevent an accident, if this is the access zone, we are going to create a problem. So the idea is to provide enough space for deceleration when they arrive to the war zone, and do it safely. Okay, and of course talk with them about blind spots, especially because workers on foot could just walk on the area, and also talk with the workers about blind spots. Hey, you are not expected to be in this area. This area is only for traffic, for dump trucks. So please keep away from this area. So don't be in these areas. Another challenge is trucks do not have sufficient space to slow down when entering, or match traffic speeds when exiting the war zone. Okay, so it is logical. What are we going to do if an operator is arriving at 50 miles an hour and suddenly he has to stop the vehicle because he's arriving to the war zone? They need some space for deceleration, to use the brakes and stop a vehicle. A regular car, for example, according to the MUTCD, a regular car driving at 65 miles an hour, it requires around 600 feet to stop completely. Okay, So think about a dump truck arriving to a work zone in which we don't have the soil is not going to be pavement but the regular dirt. Okay, so the brakes are not going to work the same. And think about it, if it was raining, it's going to be worse, or it was snowing or black ice and all these things. So we need to provide a ramp for these vehicles when they arrive. And when we designed how are we going to create a work zone, an internal traffic control plan, we need to think about these problems, providing a deceleration area, for example. This is the solution that the internal traffic control plan recommends for this case. Use shoulders areas or closed lanes to create ramps that will provide safe acceleration and deceleration zones. Okay, provide these areas because, as I told you, stopping a vehicle doesn't happen immediately. They need some distance to completely stop the vehicle, and it depends also on the nature of the soil, the dirt, the pavement, or if it was raining or snowing. So it can require more space, but we need to consider when we design the work zone, we need to consider providing these ramps or special areas for deceleration when they arrive to the work zone. So another challenge is that motorists may follow construction trucks into the work area. Okay, it happens. So what solutions do we have? Visual signals are usually recommended for this situation. Traditional warning signals, a slow speed advisory, dynamic late merge, travel time, delay, excessive speed warning. Sometimes it can create a problem to have too much information, too many signs in the area. So we have to be sure that they are more specific and clear. Traffic surveillance, stop traffic warning, trucks entering, exiting, maintain temporary traffic control devices in good condition. So information is key. Okay, we have new technologies, new panels providing information for drivers about what to expect in the future. If we have a war zone in 2 miles, in 5 miles, and so on. So we need to provide information in advance to the motorists, okay, to prevent the confusion, this kind of confusion. We can also, of course, provide additional. There are some sound alarms that can activate if an not authorized vehicle is arriving to the war zone. We can provide some whistles or horns to workers whenever they can identify a vehicle not authorized in the war zone. They can use it to alert everybody about the intrusion, the motorist intrusion. We can use rumble strips in the ramps when people are or motorists are arriving to the war zone. They can feel the rumble strips and identify what is the problem that they are arriving inside or intruding inside the war zone instead of the regular roadway. So some solutions, in additional solutions, vehicle activated warning signs, replace signs in vehicle, real-time information. Yeah, we were talking about all these things before. Another challenge that we can find. So crew, operators, inspectors, subcontractors, and others may not be up to date on access and egress location as work progresses. So the idea of an internal traffic control plan is to not only to create a plan, but communicate the plan to all the stakeholders. People who are going to visit the war zone, they should know where is the access zone, where is the exit zone, where is the parking area, where they are going to find the office of the foreman, and so on. Okay, and some rules about, hey, if you are going to walk, not only driving, but walking in the war zone, before doing anything, you have to go first to the office of the foreman, because we recommend, for example, for visitors who are going to do an inspection or walk around the war zone, they need somebody to guide them inside the war zone, so a sort of chaperone to be with the visitors all the time, because the visitors don't know the dynamics of the war zones and the risks sometimes of the war zone. So some solutions that we have: hold pre-chief meeting with all involved. So communicate the internal traffic control plan with everybody. Everyone must be informed on daily activities and changes. And one solution that we can use and we recommend to use to communicate it with everybody, when the foreman, for example, create a diagram about what is the plan, where are we going to create the areas for parking areas, food areas, what is the areas for workers on foot, where are the areas for only traffic. We create a diagram. We share this information with the workers, but we can also take a picture of this information and send it to our office. Of course, it's going to require some additional coordination, but it is the nature of internal traffic control plan to have coordination with the company, because they can use this picture of the diagram to send this to all the other stakeholders. For example, we know that somebody from the DOT is going to visit the war zone today. It's important to have a diagram helping them to recognize where is the access zone, where is the parking area, where are the trucks, where the trucks are going to park or wait to deliver materials, to prevent confusion. We hear a lot of complaints from workers, especially about inspectors, OSHA inspector, DOT inspector, people who arrive to the war zone and they're usually not aware about the dynamics of the war zone, and it creates some problems. But it's not because we don't want to follow rules, it is because we don't have the rules. So, but if the foreman can take a picture to the drawing he creates to explain the separation of workers on food and heavy equipment in the war zone, and they can, or he or she can send the picture to the office, and from the construction company office, they can send it to all the other stakeholders, including, for example, truck companies, the companies providing the trucks. They need to know if there is any change. We need to send another picture with all the changes, just to help people who are going to visit the war zone or arrive to war zone to know where is the access zone or the exit zone, or parking areas, and so on. So we have another challenge here. Motorists may bridge barriers and strike workers near access and egress points. Yep, it is something that we're sorry. We have a motor distraction. Motorists are distracted. We were discussing about it. What can we do to prevent this kind of incidents? And I remember the conclusion was you have to be prepared for it, because we cannot control the decisions of the drivers. We can provide signs, we can provide positive barriers, and all these things, but eventually there could be a crazy motorist and creating this kind of incidents, and we have to be prepared for everything. Okay, so some solutions from the internal traffic control plan perspective: when openings are not in use, they should be evaluated to see if it's necessary to close them. Close the access zone that you are not going to use, because if not, people are going to mess around this area. Okay, so watch for vehicles that do not belong in near or near the work area. That's why it's important. For example, the ticket person, the person providing the tickets for the trucks arriving, delivering materials, this person is key, because it's a point of communication, and also could have a horn or a whistle to alert everybody if there is a motorist intrusion. Okay. So another challenge: when incidents occur within the war zone, emergency responders need access. And it is something important. OSHA is asking us to have an emergency action plan all the time. Okay. So when we have an incident, who is going to call 911? Who is going to provide first aid, CPR if needed? Who is going to be in the access zone to guide the ambulance, the policemen cars when they arrive, because you can call 911 and say, hey, we have an accident in this place. When we are building a roadway, we don't have any indication about what in which mile are we working. We can just provide some signals from the environment, so from the surroundings, to guide the ambulance or the policemen who are arriving. So that's important to train somebody in the emergency action plan, assign somebody to go to the access zone and wait for the ambulance to arrive and provide the directions to the ambulance, the policemen, people who are arriving, to provide first aid or help with this situation. So it says the temporary traffic control plan and the internal traffic control plan should work in tandem to allow access for emergency responders. Evaluate each job. When appropriate, local police should be kept up to date on activities that disrupt traffic and have the potential for workers to be harmed. So whenever we have also a project, we recommend or foremen, supervisors to visit the police office, the firefighters station, and tell them, introduce themselves and say, hey, we are going to start working in this area, just in case. What is your phone number if there is an emergency? Because sometimes it is faster to call directly to the fire station office instead of call 911. So have a clear communication with all the first respondents that can help you if there is any accident, and be ready to guide them when they arrive to the war zone. If we don't provide clear indication, we could have this case. You can see this policeman arriving to the war zone, but he didn't know that we have fresh concrete in this area, and he is trapped because of this situation. So they need help, okay? They need guidance when they arrive. It's interesting, we were talking about the internal traffic control plan. In general, we don't have regulations, but in this case, for access and egress zones, we have some regulation from the Federal Highway Administration. So we have these rules. They are very concerned about this transition area between the regular traffic lanes to the war zone, and they have created some requirements. For example, the use of positive protection devices to prevent intrusions. Yeah, we have to use concrete barriers, jersey barriers. We have to provide exposure control measures. For example, if we can deviate or move the traffic from the war zone to another area to prevent traffic in general in the area where we are working, that would be great. Or we can provide other traffic control measures to minimize crashes. So we have to be more proactive about it, because as I told you, in general, in the US, we are talking about 850 fatalities on average every year, with accidents in the war or around the war zones, okay, or because of the war zone. So we have to reduce these incidents using some proactive measures, okay, to prevent these accidents. So this is the fourth module. We are going to talk now about productivity. Let me find the okay. How important is this perspective of productivity and safety? As I told you, when I was doing my MBA, I focused very much on the impact of safety on productivity. Okay, and I realized something interesting. It was almost 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, the US didn't have uh, any literature focus on safety and productivity, how safety can impact productivity. I was doing my research and I found that you can find that England, the United Kingdom, Canada, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, they have web pages dedicated to safety and productivity, just to reach the owners, the construction company owners, and help them to realize how much money they can save if they invest in preventing accidents, incidents. Okay. So I focus very much on this area. I had the opportunity to find this job now with the American Road and Transportation Builders Association because of this focus. And so we were discussing, and I had the opportunity to work also with OSHA in helping them to create the safety pace web page and the safety calculator they have on the OSHA web page. Because if we can convince owners that safety is not only a good thing to do, but a very profitable thing to do, especially in the US, we can improve safety and prevent more accidents. So how the internal traffic control plan can help us to be more productive. So we are going to talk about the additional benefits of an internal traffic control plan to the war zone, explain how the internal traffic control plan improves communication in a roadway construction project, and communication is key to prevent accidents and improve quality, productivity, safety. So an internal traffic control plan improves productivity. The key concept behind internal traffic control plan is planning for worker safety. Okay, that's our main objective. That's our goal, worker safety. But by doing it, it's interesting. We can improve productivity. We can improve quality. We can improve morale. There are several studies from the American National Safety Professionals Association. I remember there was a study from the Harvard Public Health Department, and they were, and also Goldman Sachs. I remember I read another study, and the conclusion was this: if companies invest on preventing accidents, increasing safety, they can become more productive. The return of investment is going to be higher, and morale and other quality factors are going to improve the work zone. And what we are doing with an internal traffic control plan is actually we are improving safety. So, but our goal is not to make more money. The goal is to protect workers. But doing this, protecting workers, we can really improve the profitability of a company too. So when we are talking about internal traffic control plan, we are talking about coordination inside of a company and also with our stakeholders. If everybody work to protect worker safety, we can increase productivity too. It's something interesting. So if we have an internal traffic control plan, we are not only protecting workers, but also we are protecting property and buildings and other resources that we have in the war zone. So it's not only, the effect is not only protecting workers, but also protecting property. So a well-executed internal traffic control plans will control for and alert workers to overhead and buried hazards such as power lines, cranes, and other utilities. So an internal traffic control plan is not only horizontal, okay? We have to think about risks that we have vertical, overhead power lines, or underground utilities, or the nature of the soil to prevent rollover hazards, and so on. So it's a whole complete safety vision to prevent accidents. Then we can improve efficiency through reduced repositioning. Yep. Productivity and efficiency. One of the greatest contributors of internal traffic control plans is improved communication. Very much, because we need to communicate the plan with workers, operators, supervisor, managers, safety managers, safety directors, project managers, and also all the stakeholders, other companies, other agencies, DOTs, and so on. So everybody's going to be more aware about what's happening in the war zone. Then communications management elements addressed in the internal traffic control plan. We are going to talk about chain of command, on-site equipment and personnel. When in the next module, we are going to talk more about what are the responsibilities of each person in the war zone. We can talk about contact information, so including on-site contractors. So how can we communicate efficiently with everybody? Contracting agency, of course, DOT, the counties, the owner of the roadways, emergency response services. As I told you, it's important if we can introduce ourselves to the firefighters department or the police department in the area, just to communicate that we are starting a project, how much is it going to take, and where is the exit zone, and so on. So I have the numbers, phone numbers, direct phone numbers for any emergencies. So the location, timetable, and the scope of the project, assignment of responsibilities, who is going to do what. So, and several things, but we are going to talk more about all these details in the next module. Okay, who is going to do what? It's important in an internal traffic control plan. The roles and responsibilities of every person in the war zone. Okay, so let me show you the next module, roles and responsibilities. So when we think about an internal traffic control plan, what are the responsibilities for each person? Okay, so let's talk about it. Who is going to do what? The objective learning of this module is to indicate the key people in an internal traffic control plan, explain the responsibilities of those involved in an internal traffic control plan, and think about yourself. What are your responsibility in the internal traffic control plan? Let's talk about it. Okay. So a good internal traffic control plan program may involve a number of key people. For example, the safety professionals. What is the role of the safety professional? What about inspectors, quality control, superintendent, project managers, supervisors, and lead person, workers on foot, truck drivers, equipment operators, spotters, site visitors, surveyors, OSHA, senior management. So everybody has something to do in the internal traffic control plan. For example, the safety professional, the primary role is training and oversight. Okay, the safety professional should know about internal traffic control plan, what to train. For example, you can use these training materials to provide training to your workers. So ensure site the specific internal traffic control plan is created. Okay, we are going to do some exercises about how to create an internal traffic control plan diagram, for example. Train on-site personnel in internal traffic control plan concepts, all the things that we have reviewed to this moment, especially talking about workers on foot and operators. It's these areas are very important, workers on foot and operators, and we need to share this information with our personnel. Okay, ensure all construction supervisors are familiar with the plan. And when we are talking about internal traffic control plan, we can realize that it is more efficient in companies in which they share a safety culture. Okay, a safety culture means that everybody from the owner to the new employee, everybody is concerned about safety, and they want to enforce safety. So, and it is important, big companies uh, with high profits, they are very focused about safety because they recognize also the problems that we can have if we have an accident, an incident, how much can it, how expensive can it be an accident, an incident, not only from the human perspective, but from the financial perspective. So what about the Department of Transportation, Quality Control and Inspectors? The primary role is liaison. So consider an internal traffic control plan is during the site operation phase. Assist and advise in plan execution. Communicate with the road owner the importance of an internal traffic control plan implementation. And it is something that it's very important for us to share this information with all the Department of Transportation because the internal traffic control plan requires some planning and some resources. Okay, people can say, well, it's an expense. No, 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 it's not an expense. It's an investment. Okay, we are investing in preventing accidents because just investing $10,000-$20,000 to prevent an incident can save us maybe $300,000 in paying for the cost of an incident. So we have to think about the internal traffic control plan as an investment that is going to help us to prevent accidents. I was providing training last year at the end of the year in Florida, and they have some projects in the I-95. The I-95 joins all the East Coast, and they told me, hey, just because we have this accident, we stopped 4 days. We have the OSHA ask us to stop while they were doing all the investigation of the incident. And they calculate that the cost of just stopping working was $4 million. So we are not talking about fines. We are not talking about legal costs, litigation costs, insurance, medical costs. No, we are just talking about stopping all the equipment, machines, and workers. So it is a very expensive thing. So if we can prevent accidents by applying this internal traffic control plan principles, it's a great investment. So then what about the superintendent and project managers? Primary role, oversight, supervise. The internal traffic control plan implementation, they have to be aware about, okay, are you implementing it? Are you executing it? Are you designing? Do you, foreman, Mr. Foreman, do you know how to do your job? Okay, why are we doing all these things? And sometimes it's important to share with them also these aspects of productivity, okay? When I talk, for example, with my Hispanic friends, I provide a lot of training in Spanish. I realize the problem is not only communication or the language. Actually, many of them speak English very well. The problem is the culture. In Latin America, to be a good worker, you have to take risks and show your boss that you are willing to take risks. And here it is different because if you are taking risks, it's possible to have more accidents, incidents, and it is going to affect the company. Okay, so we need sometimes to talk with people about how important is safety, not only because you are going to suffer or your family is going to suffer, but also because it's going to affect the company, okay, financially. So we don't want it, of course. So ensure subcontractor coordination and buy-in. It's important. If a subcontractor doesn't want to follow your safety initiative, your safety plan, maybe you need to work with a different subcontractor because in general, you know, if there is an accident because a subcontractor is not working safely, it is going to affect the general contractor and also the owner of the project. So we have to be sure that everybody is aware about the safety plan, the safety principles, and adhere or decide to comply with these requirements. So then assign personnel to carry out the plan. Yep. Especially sometimes the safety managers, who is going to train the foreman, and who is going to supervise that the foreman is executing the plan and talking with the workers also to verify that everything is according to the plan. They are aware about the progress and all these things, how to prevent incidents. Then the supervisor and lead person, primary role is implementation. It is a plan and implement an internal traffic control plan site responsible for coordination among personnel and subcontractors at the construction site. Ensure changes are made to an internal traffic control plan as site conditions change. So what happens, for example, if a subcontractor is not following the rules? So if possible, maybe the foremen they can talk between one foreman and the other and say, hey, man, we need you to follow the internal traffic control plan and all these requirements. And sometimes they don't care. If they don't care, you need to find another way to call the attention of this company. Maybe a supervisor, the owner of the company, a director, a manager can talk with the director or managers of the other company to identify what is the problem and request for a solution. Okay, and sometimes apply some penalties that you can find in, if you create a contract, you can include some penalties if subcontractors are not following the rules. So execute the contract in that way. And maybe the next time you need to find another subcontractor to work with. Workers on foot. Okay, their primary role for workers on foot is to understand, comply, and correct deficiencies. Okay, when you provide a training, be sure that they understand it. When they are working, go and enforce, especially foremen should go and enforce, verify that people are following the rules and correct deficiencies. Okay, we need to train our workers to help us to identify deficiencies like near misses, for example. Hey, there was almost an accident here because of XY reasons, so you as a foreman can solve the problem and prevent the incident to happen. Or maybe there was some cones or barrels that were in the wrong position. If you train your workers properly, they can identify the problems. Maybe if there is no risk for them because of the traffic, they can solve the problem by themselves. But if there is traffic, you have to train them. Hey, you have to disclose it to me, to the foreman, and we are going to stop the traffic, use a flagger, and correct deficiencies. But it's important for us to verify. Look, internal traffic control plan is about workers on food safety. This is our main goal, and it's very, very, very important for us that they do all these things: understand, comply, and correct deficiencies. Help us to correct deficiencies. Okay. Then the truck boss, you have the trucks arriving to the work zone constantly. There is a truck boss. So the primary role of this person is to communicate with other drivers. Okay, if there is any change in the internal traffic control plan, that could be our main point of contact. Share internal traffic control plan instructions on where drivers should operate. Okay, what areas are only for traffic, what areas are designated for truck lanes or truck queues. Assist in communicating safe site procedures with all truck drivers. Okay, we own the internal traffic control plan, the diagram, and we need to share it with other people, especially with the leaders of other organizations. This person is a leader. This person has a responsibility to share this information also with other truck drivers in the company. But also we can be sure that everybody is aware about any change in the internal traffic control plan just by getting photocopies of the new plan or the diagram and sharing these photocopies with everybody who arrives to the work zone. So provide it to the person who is providing the tickets, and this person can give the photocopies of the new diagram of the internal traffic control plan with some information. So just everybody could be aware and know what's happening, what is the plan in the work zone. Okay. For general workers, truck drivers, general operators, I say, the primary role is keep a safe distance from workers on foot. Okay, be aware about blind spots, Be aware about distraction. Be aware about sometimes you're focused doing your job and you cannot see what's happening around. So this information is important. So sometimes I was in a training in which we ask all the operators to go inside of the cabin to identify the blind spots. We put all the cones barrels as I showed you yesterday, and they were surprised about how big were all the blind spots. They were uh, working as operators for several years, and they didn't realize how big were their blind spots. They couldn't believe it. So it's important to provide some training also to these operator drivers. They should receive internal traffic control plan instruction on where they should operate. Okay, that's why we can provide uh, a photocopy of the diagram. Receive navigation assistance, spotters when appropriate. Okay, especially backing up operations. Never operate into a blind area without checking for pedestrians. Okay, some rules, especially backing up operations with dump trucks are critical activities when they are backing up. These backing up operations are critical activities because most of the accidents we have inside the war zone are because dump truck backing up operations. So equipment operators in general or regular workers, operators working in the war zone, know the location of workers on foot. It's very similar to the regular dump truck operators. The problem here is that we are talking also about not only horizontal problems, but vertical and problems like power lines and underground utilities that sometimes they are doing excavations and all these things. They need additional assistance, especially from spotters to control the operations. So some recommendations: don't move until the blind area is checked or a spotter is designated. No blind areas for equipment you are operating. Look, we watched it yesterday in the presentation that every vehicle has different blind spots. Okay, they are not the same. So if whenever they are using a different kind of equipment, they need to be aware about the difference of the blind spots. Stay out of areas designated for workers on foot. Yeah, just fulfill with the internal traffic control plan. Don't mess around areas only for workers on foot. Do a 360 degrees walk around before moving equipment. We were talking about it yesterday too. So some basic instruction for operators. Spotters, we were talking about the spotters yesterday too. So safe backing is the main objective of a spotter. Ensure operator knows where you are and will be located. We were talking about the left side, and is the best place where to be. Ensure workers know your responsibilities and wait for permission to enter area. Use a hand signal or a radio. Receive training in safe spotting procedures and know the signals. Similar to flaggers, the spotters should receive a training. It's not mandatory, but it doesn't mean that it is not important. And stay in continuous communication with operators and remain visible at all times. Some basic rules about communication signals, visual contact all the time. If you need to move to another place, you have to ask permission to the operator. If the operator cannot see the spotter, the operator should stop the vehicle immediately. We were talking about all these things yesterday. Visitors. Okay, we have people visiting the war zone, so get informed. If you know that there is an internal traffic control plan and you need to arrive to the location, to the war zone, you can request. Maybe if you didn't receive any update, you can call the foreman, say, Mr. Foreman, yes, I am the inspector from the DOT. I need to do an inspection about the asphalt. I'll plan to arrive at 11. Do you have any internal traffic control plan? You can send it to me. Maybe by using the mobile cell phones, they can send the plan from the office, from the foreman office to the inspector. And in this way, you can get information: where is the access zone, where are you going to park your vehicle, where are you going to find the office of the foreman, and so on. So check in with the supervisor when you arrive. First thing, it's very important, okay? Because we have cases in which people inspector arrive to the war zone and they start walking in the middle of the area and they have incidents because they are not aware about the dynamics of the war zone or the rules of the war zone. Maybe he is or she is walking in an area only for traffic and so on. A certain proper location to park your vehicle. Yep, do not enter blind areas, especially in dump trucks. You look, some vehicles are invisible also for operators uh, in a dump truck. Okay, dump trucks sometimes are so big that the blind spots are not allowing them to see other vehicles around the vehicle, the dump truck. Stay in areas designated for workers on foot. Okay, if you are a visitor, please follow the rules too. So we have a class activity. What are your duties? So we usually ask people, hey, uh, what do you do? What are your responsibilities in an internal traffic control plan? And we share this information, and it is a very interesting opportunity to think again about internal traffic control plan. So I recommend you, if you are going to provide this training to your workers, operators, and other people in the company, do this exercise. It's very interesting. Okay, it's 11, and we are going to have some short questions, and then we are going to have a break, a 5 minutes break. So Paula, are you ready with the questions for the students?
I am. Launching it now. To vote on your screen, you may need to click the escape button to exit full screen mode. And I'll go ahead and read the question. According to the MUTCD, how far does it take to stop a car traveling on a regular dry pavement at 65 miles per hour? Thirty more seconds here and we'll close the poll. We have about 55% who answered the question. 10 seconds. Okay, so Robinson, the responses were 13% said 150 feet, 27% voted 355 feet, 20% voted for 850 feet, 37% voted for 645 feet, and 3% said none of the above.
Yeah, according to the MUTCD, 645. But of course, it's according to the MUTCD, but in general, but you can, you know that it depends also of the quality of the brakes, the quality of the tires, and other factors. But it's a sort of average that we have in the MUTCD. So if it's okay, we can take a break and we can continue at 11:10.
Okay.
Okay, see you then. Thank you. Okay, are we ready? Hello?
I'm here.
Hello, Paula. So
Yes.
let's continue with our training if it's okay for you. Uh, I want
Okay.
I want to share a couple of videos just to review all these things that we were learning yesterday and today. And I have a very good video created by Arba some years, a couple of years ago. And they focus very much on the workers' perspective about runovers and backovers and the supervisor and the operator's perspective about runovers and backovers. We have a section for supervisors, but it's basically showing to them what they can find in this video. So let's do this review for the safety, preventive runovers and backovers safety from the workers' perspective, what they need to know to reinforce all these things that we were learning these days. Okay, let's see if I can do it. Yeah, here it is.
Sometimes we laugh at the silly things people do. Spectacular crashes captivate us. Daring stunts bring us to the edge of our seats. Near-death incidents make our hearts race. But in real life, workplace incidents, deaths, and injuries are not funny at all. For you and your coworkers, being run over or backed over by vehicles or equipment is a daily threat. In fact, every year they cause over half of the more than 100 deaths and 20,000 injuries to workers in roadway construction zones nationwide. Runover and backover dangers come from two sources: from traffic driving through the traffic space and from construction vehicles and equipment operating within the workspace. Every year, more than 50 roadway construction workers are killed when they are struck by motorists or construction vehicles. Over the next few minutes, we're going to talk about several practices you need to follow every day to protect yourself and your coworkers from being run over or backed over by cars, trucks, or equipment. First, always be physically and mentally ready for work and stay alert. Second, be visible with the right personal protective equipment at all times and at all places on the job. And third, stay clear of traffic routes and mobile construction equipment as you work and move around the job site. Let's talk about each of these. Be ready for work. You owe it to your colleagues and yourself to be in good physical and mental condition when you arrive on the job site so you can work effectively and safely. Stay alert. Besides drugs, alcohol, and even drowsiness or mental distractions can keep you from having a clear head. To be safe, focus on your work and surroundings. Accidents often happen when good, conscientious workers become too relaxed, distracted, or complacent about workplace dangers. Know where you are and what's around you, especially moving vehicles and equipment. Be sensitive to hazards that approach your space. Look around and behind you frequently. Try to stay in areas designated for workers on foot, and check in every direction when you must move among vehicles and equipment. Above all, avoid crossing open traffic lanes. In busy work zones, you may ask your supervisor about anticipated traffic patterns for dump trucks and other equipment. In short, you should know where to look for vehicles and equipment, and operators should know where to look for you. Stay out of each other's space. In situations where you are required to work with your back to oncoming traffic or in the path of construction vehicles or equipment, get coworkers to be spotters or lookouts. They should be your eyes and ears for dangers such as vehicles that might stray from the traffic side of the work zone, wide loads, or extended mirrors. These have killed more than a few workers. Work zones are noisy places, but your ears are one of your greatest protections. Take care of them. Use hearing protection if necessary, and never become complacent about warning signs. This includes backup alarms, horns, and even engine noises. Listen for these warning sounds, then react to them as called for. This includes shouts from your coworkers. Heads up! Look out for each other and convey warnings when necessary. Next, wear your personal protective equipment. Your safety vest or other high visibility clothing and your hard hat make you more visible. For drivers and equipment operators to avoid hitting you, they first have to see you. This is true for both motorists driving nearby and construction drivers and operators. Wear your vest throughout the day and keep it fastened so you can be seen from all angles. Also, use your hard hat, eye protection, and other personal protective equipment when required. Even when you take a break, it's a good idea to keep at least your vest on. If you flag or set up signals and traffic control devices, or otherwise work close to traffic, you especially need the protection of high visibility clothing and headgear. While hard hats protect your head from impacts, they also enhance your overall visibility. You stand out better when you wear one. Next, think safety and act safely. Your actions will reflect your thoughts and good attitude about safety. If you see cones, barrels, or other devices knocked down or out of place, alert your supervisor. If you're assigned and qualified as a flagger, be sure you know exactly what to do to control the traffic. Ask questions if you're not sure. Avoid standing behind vehicles or equipment as they back up or in other blind spots. These are locations where drivers or operators can't see you either directly or through their rear view mirrors. Think about this. High visibility clothing won't make you more visible to someone who can't see you at all. So always try to be where you can both see and be seen. And as noted earlier, protect yourself with your hearing as well as your sight. Tune in to backup and other equipment alarms and to other sounds that warn you of possible collision, including your coworkers warning you. Now, to communicate with drivers and operators, it's best to use a radio. Otherwise, use clearly understood hand signals. Never get close to moving vehicles or equipment. Instead, first get the driver's or operator's attention, and then approach only after the vehicle or equipment stops. Even then, stay back a safe distance. Many types of equipment have parts that can move abruptly and injure you if you're standing in the wrong place. For example, some hydraulic systems briefly maintain their pressure even after the engine is turned off. It's good practice to imagine a safety circle around any equipment that you work near. The circle represents the safe distance to keep between yourself and the equipment. Enough clearance, for example, to protect you in case the equipment tips over. If you need to get under equipment, such as for repair or routine maintenance, first be absolutely sure the equipment is locked out and tagged out. For wheeled equipment, make sure it is fully stopped and stabilized, with the brakes set and the wheels chocked. Roadway construction work can be very dangerous. Don't add to the dangers by practical jokes and horseplay or other reckless behavior. Think safety and act safely by following all the rules all the time. Okay, let's recap what you've learned. You can protect yourself from collisions in roadway work zones by being ready for work and staying alert. This means that you have come to work well rested and not impaired by drugs or alcohol. Clear your mind of distracting thoughts. Know where you are, pay attention, and keep your guard up. Listen for warning sounds. It also means knowing the hazards of your particular work site, paying attention during safety discussions, and inspecting all equipment and work conditions such as trenches before starting to work. By wearing your high visibility personal protective equipment. This means that you wear your safety vest or other high visibility clothing and your hard hat as required, everywhere and at all times on the job. By thinking safety and acting safely, this means that your good attitude about safety will show in your actions on the job. You will position yourself where drivers and operators can see you. You'll be careful when approaching and working around equipment. You'll communicate with others in the crew and with drivers and operators. You'll look out for your coworkers, and you'll follow all work rules and avoid horseplay. You will also bring to your supervisor's attention any conditions that have changed and may be hazardous. And here's one more. When your company holds safety discussions, participate. Don't just sit through them. Ask questions, voice your concerns, and share your knowledge and experience. Unlike the movies, workplace incidents, deaths, and injuries are no laughing matter. By working together, you and your colleagues can play a vital role in helping prevent collisions and making the work zone safer for everyone.
Okay, we are going to show how to create the program, how to develop the program now. And later we are going to talk a little more about the operators. Continue with this video. It's a very illustrative video. We are going to talk a little about the operators too, just to recap all the things that we were learning. But we are going to put our hands on the work now. So how are we going to develop the program? So we are going to learn how to we're going to learn each step of the development of an internal traffic control plan, explain the parts of an internal traffic control plan diagram, demonstrate how to create an internal traffic control plan diagram. So now we need to focus on how to organize ourselves to create this plan. Okay, organizations and everybody in the company. What is there? We learn a little about the role of everybody in the company. We realize that an internal traffic control plan is not only going to save lives, but also is going to save us money, help us to be more productive, and we need to learn how to do it. All these things. Okay, when should an internal traffic control plan be developed? So different aspects of that internal traffic control plan will be identified and developed during the various construction phases of a project. Depending on the phase, different people will be involved in the process. We learned a little more about it in the previous module. What I want to show you here is what is the influence of safety on the construction process. So if we plan for safety, if we implement all the safety ideas and measures in the planning stage, our influence on safety is going to be high. Okay, according to the studies, all the people that were investigating the impact of safety, it's better for planning for safety in advance instead of trying to think about safety when we are in the middle of the construction process. So it's not going to be so efficient. So that's why it's important. So in general, you know, everything should start with a hazard evaluation, a hazard assessment, or a risk assessment. Everything should start with this, and we need to teach our workers also to do their own hazard assessment and evaluations. So we usually think about the hazard assessment for engineers to go to the place and identify all the hazards possible in the project. For example, here there is some power lines. Here we are going to do some excavation and trenching. We need to call 811 to know about underburied utilities in this area. We are going to have confined spaces here, fall hazards there, cave-ins here, traffic there, all the hazards. We have to evaluate all the hazards. And then we are going to plan what are we going to do to neutralize the hazards. And do you remember we were talking about the OSHA safety control hierarchy, all the measures that we can take, all the safety control measures that we can take, starting with eliminating the hazard, substitution of the hazard, engineer control, administrative control, and then personal protective equipment. But we need to start thinking about all these things here in this planning stage. Okay, we can talk about right of way, for example, all the space that we are going to provide for the project. How many lanes are we going to close? What is that? How are we going to do the temporary traffic control plan? The use of the MUTCD? Do we have the resources to put the signs, cones, barrels, jersey barriers, track attenuators? It depends on the project, of course. Equipment selection and identification. What kind of equipment are we going to use? And you know, the qualities and technologies of the equipment can be very different from one equipment to the other. And we maybe could identify better equipments, better technologies that can prevent incidents, and it could be a good investment if we can do it, for example. Subcontractor selection and coordination, it's important. We need to work with people who are willing to work safely, okay, with us. If a subcontractor had an incident in the past, usually it affects not only the general contractor, as I told you, but also the owner of the company. The legal investigation process, fines, and all these things, it is sometimes it is a very messy situation and problem. Okay, we need to work with people willing to work safely with us. You have to select subcontractors that are willing to work safely with you. For example, asking the EMR, the employment modification rate, to know, okay, if you want to work with me, show me what is your EMR, and according to this, I can realize if you are above or below the safety average in the industry. So, contractor planning phase, negotiation of responsibilities, who is going to do what. We were talking about it before when we talk about what are the responsibilities of each person in the internal traffic control plan: the project manager, the safety personnel, the superintendent, the foreman, the workers on foot. So what are the responsibilities? Okay, assigning duties, meeting participation, who is going to do this, participate in these meetings in every level of responsibility, use of law enforcement, contact the law enforcement, location of access egress points in the area, line encroachments. So things that we need to discuss. Also, the safety professional employees assist in developing the internal traffic control plan, performs audits, all this, because it's important. When you do the plan, also you have to verify that everybody is fulfilling the plan, do the evaluation about it, and get the recommendations from the workers sometimes. How can we improve the plan? It's important to get all the information to continue improving the plan with the help of the workers too. So the site supervisor assists in developing the internal traffic control plan. Basically, we are asking the foreman to do the drawing and all this regular meetings with the workers, sharing this information. But if the foreman needs some resources, some time, some additional training, it usually should go to the supervisor to get these resources to fulfill his or her job. The four lead personnel develops and implements the internal traffic control plan. You know, the foreman is the guy that is a very important person in this plan. Of course, we can say, you know, the safety manager is going to be responsible for this activity of creating the diagram of the work zone, but we identified that the person who is more aware about any change and situation in the work zone is actually the foreman. So that's why we recommend the foreman to be the guy who is going to create the diagram and disseminate this information with all the parties. So subcontractor selection, buying, and communication. Yeah, we were talking about it before. It's important the subcontractors to be willing to work with us in keeping or improving safety and following the internal traffic control plan. The owner agency coordination and communication is very important. You know, again, for the people in the DOTs, it's important to think about the internal traffic control plan as an investment more than an expense. It's an investment to prevent accidents, incidents that could create more expenses and also delay the time of fulfillment with all the contracts. So, selection of equipment, we were talking about it. Sometimes you need to invest additional money to buy better equipment that are going to help you to improve safety in the work zone. So what are the internal traffic control plan elements in a diagram? Okay, we are going to draw a diagram. So basically, it's the internal traffic control diagram. You are going to draw your own plan of the location of the workers on foot areas, traffic areas, parking lot areas, parking space areas, areas for water, rest, shade, food areas, access zone, exit zones, queue areas for the tracks, and other procedures. So you have to draw all these things in a piece of paper. And also it's important to provide notes. So you do the drawing, but also provide notes. Say, we are going to adopt these measures to reduce injuries. We are going to do these kind of activities in the workplace, cite the specific conditions, provisions, duties, equipment, personal list, notes on safety points, some information. Because think about it, you do the drawing and maybe you can understand your own drawing, but the idea is to communicate it to other people. So if you can provide some notes, some clear notes, clarifying some special condition or circumstances in your plan, your project, it could help a lot to other people. And we have another section. So we have the another element. It is the key. So the internal traffic control plan key. Well, not everybody is a great artist, but we need to create a sort of key to indicate what does it mean every drawing that we are doing in our diagram. Okay, so it is important to provide this information. Sometimes you can do a drawing and you can immediately put above the drawing, hey, this is a truck, a dump truck. This is a water truck. This is a paver, okay, and this is a roller. So this is a worker on foot. This is the spader. Some kind of information to clarify what does it mean, your drawings. This is a full track and so on. So all this information, because not everybody's an artist. Sometimes we need some clarification. Okay, so when we are creating the plan, we need to identify the project scope and plan scope, as these vary from job to job. So something interesting in the roadway construction industry is that we are constantly changing environments too, and dealing with traffic also. So the conditions usually change from project to project according to the environment, the circumstances in which we are working. Sometimes we are working in a hill, sometimes we are working in a urban area, rural area, near a bridge. Everything changes. So we need to identify the scope of the activity that we are doing according to the circumstances. Identify the operation that will take place: paving, trenching, earth moving. What are we doing? So you can put this information also in the plan. Identify the individuals who will be involved: safety professional, foreman, superintendent, trucks, boss, Department of Transportation inspector, visitors. So review the site plan. Where will the operation take place? What is the exact location? As it's important, because sometimes if it is not a new project, sometimes we need to use some geo coordinates to help people to identify where are we working. If it is another kind of project, maybe we can identify some specific landscape signs, look to help people to identify where is the location where we are working, because sometimes people are going to visit us and they need this information. Then what equipment will be involved? Okay, I need this equipment, dump truck, I need a water truck, I need here a roller, a paver, and other equipment that we need to use. Where will workers on foot need to be located? Designated special areas for workers on foot, different from the traffic area. So where are the access and exit points? How often will deliveries be made or loads removed? How quickly will the work progress? So how much time do we have to finish the project, and so on. So these are additional information that we don't require to put all these things in the diagram. The diagram only needs to have the drawing, the notes, and the key. Okay, but to be sure to consider all all the project, we need to think in the long term, because one diagram is not going to work for all the project. Sometimes we need to revamp or modify the diagram according to the circumstances, according to the stage of the project. Okay, so sometimes we are going to move the access zone and create another access zone or exit zone according to the project, because roadway construction we are constantly moving and also dealing with different kind of traffics according to the circumstances. So all these considerations should be provided, not necessarily in the diagram, but it is the context in which we are working, and we have to be aware about the possible changes of the diagram. So implement communication plan, it's very important. How are we going to communicate with our own company, with the subcontractors, with the owners of the company, with the first responders, and so on. So also we need to think who will develop the internal traffic control plan. Usually the foreman is going to do the drawing. Who will execute the internal traffic control plan? Also the foreman, but we can also ask the supervisor to supervise and do some inspections regularly, talking with the workers if the plan is working, if they are implementing the plan, they are following the plan, and so on. Who will instruct project leaders, site employees, operators, subcontractors, truck drivers? Usually we ask the safety manager or safety director to do these activities. Once communications are in order, your plan is complete. Okay. So identify also sub operations such as asphalt sampling, water rollers, loading, offloading, equipment maintenance, additional operations that we need to do or perform not regularly, but from time to time. So additional information about the site specific from the internal traffic control plan. Draw the basic work area layout, maybe taken from the temporary traffic control plan. You know, it is the activity zone is inside practical of the temporary traffic control plan. But we are focusing on the activity zone and the traffic inside of the work zone, not outside of the work zone. But the temporary traffic control plan can give us a perspective about the location and circumstances of our project. The drawing need not to be to scale, but should be sufficient size, all drawing of vehicles and pedestrian worker paths. Plot the pedestrian worker and vehicles paths using an internal traffic control plan principles. Okay, basically separating workers on foot from heavy equipment. Plot workers on foot location, plot equipment and vehicle location, plot vehicles and equipment paths, including access egress points for trucks and other site visitors, plot location of utilities, storage areas, and other obstacles or hazards. Look, this is the main principle or the main idea of an internal traffic control plan, how to separate workers on foot from heavy equipment. If we create a plan with this goal, we are going to have maybe 90% of the plan done. But this is the main idea. This is the main goal, separating workers on foot from heavy equipment as much as possible by creating special areas for workers on foot and heavy equipment, and sometimes using some positive devices or like cones, barrel signs to separate the areas. So create plan notes explaining the diagram, specific duties of all involved personnel, consider posting signs indicating worker-free zones and equipment-free zones. Remember also that you can use all the MUTCD signs and devices inside of the work zone too, to improve the traffic. Okay, there is no prohibition to use the temporary traffic control devices inside of the work zone, so we can use also these resources. Consider posting speed limits inside the workspace. Include other injuries reducing measures. We were talking about all these signs before. This is an internal traffic control plan made in a computer. You can use it too if you allocate this responsibility, for example, from the safety manager. You can create a plan section by section, but if you prefer, you can allocate this responsibility to the foreman. And let me go to this this activity. Here, for example, is a regular plan for a third spread plan. So it is handmade. They are trying to consider the real situation of the workplace, the work zone. Maybe we can improve it, adding some access zone or exit zone, or more information with notes. But at least we have the diagram or the drawing. We have a key in which we can read water truck here, dump truck there. Some additional information can be provided in notes. But for example, if you were creating this diagram, and the question is, where are you going to put the parking area or the food area or the restroom area? Would you put it near the work zone, or would you put it far away from the work zone, requiring the workers to cross traffic lanes? And you know, common sense sometimes is not so common, so that's why we need to reinforce this idea with our foreman, for example, or whoever is going to do these drawings. And maybe you can say, hey, of course you need to put all these resources near the workers on foot. This area with chevrons are the areas for workers on foot. The other area in which we can read the dump trucks and the lanes are for traffic. So we want the workers on foot to have access to all these resources near to them, and they don't, in a way in which they don't need to cross any traffic lane to have access to these resources. So this is another way to put it, just a handmade drawings, okay, but indicating, hey, the water and food is here, rest and shade is here, restroom here, parking areas there. So this basic information is going to be very helpful. Really, it's helping to prevent accidents. So let's come back to this area we were talking. We are going to talk about a couple of examples here. For example, we can talk with our workers in general, okay? Sometimes they want to cross in the middle of two working equipment. So we need to teach them, hey, you need to avoid this area. This area is risky for you. These two equipments are working together, and sometimes the operator are not going to realize that you are working there because they are focusing on their job. So instead of working or walking in the middle of them and having an incident, or there is a possibility to have an accident, we recommend you to go around and avoid these areas. Okay. This is another drawing about a regular model of paving, creating an access zone. So, yeah. So this is we're going to show you a review video that is going to help us to recap all these things that we were discussing here.
Work zones can be complex environments with many different types of vehicles and equipment. Just as each piece of equipment has its own function and purpose, each piece of equipment has unique blind spots. Blind spots are areas around equipment where workers, equipment, and other objects are not visible to the driver or operator through windows and mirrors. Some vehicles, like dump trucks, have large blind spots. With these vehicles, workers on foot need to take special care to stay away from dangerous areas where they cannot be seen and could be struck. Other varieties of equipment, like pavers, have clear views in some directions, but substantial blind spots still remain. Equipment, like rollers, offer the operator a much less obstructed view. Around this equipment, workers can be seen quite well by the operator, if the operator is looking for them. In other words, just because an operator can see workers doesn't mean he or she will see them. Operators and drivers are often focused on their tasks, and if they do not anticipate someone standing or working near their equipment, they may not look for him or her. As such,
Each work site should have areas designated as worker-free zones and equipment-free zones. These are areas set aside for workers and equipment so both can operate safely. Workers should not enter equipment zones unannounced, and vehicles should signal and receive confirmation from workers on foot before entering their work area. To be safe, workers, drivers, and operators need to understand these four elements. Each type and brand of equipment is unique, and each has its own characteristic blind spots. Know they exist and understand where they are located. Workers should stay clear of all trucks and equipment, especially the blind spots. If a worker has a need to be close, there should be a spotter, and or the driver should be made aware of each specific worker and where he or she is completing their task. Before backing, dumping, or maneuvering the truck or equipment in a blind area, make sure the operator has personally checked to ensure there are no workers. Again, trained spotters can perform this critical function. Finally, check with your supervisor or lead person to see where the equipment and worker-free zones are located. Stay in your area until you have been cleared to leave. A little information can help a lot to make sure you avoid accidents, injuries, or deaths in equipment blind spots. For more information on the blind spots around various types and brands of equipment, go to www.cdc.gov/NIOSH/topics/highwayworkzones.html or follow the links from the National Work Zone Safety Information Clearinghouse at www.workzonesafety.org.
So we are learning now how to do all the diagrams, all the drawings, the responsibility, especially for the foreman, to draw this diagram and share this information with all the other stakeholders, not only with the workers, but also with the office. Send a copy or take a picture and send it to the office, and from the office, there should be instruction to share it with all the other stakeholders, other companies, DOTs, any subcontractors, and so on. So it's important to share this drawing with other parties to allow them to be aware about the internal traffic control plan. Okay. So we are going to start with the last module. It's going to be very short, as we were talking about technology before. But yes, the idea is technology. How can technology help us to improve safety? And you can realize that we have a lot of new technology. In 10 years, technology to prevent runovers and backovers has evolved very much. We now have a lot of technologies coming from the mining industry. You know, these big dump trucks they have in the mining industry, the size of a house, and blind spots are very, very big. So they have some new sonars, radars, not only cameras, but braking systems that if they detect any movement around the vehicle can stop automatically, for example. So the operator has to verify it check in the screen for the videos if there is somebody around or what's happening. So what we want to learn a little more here is explain how technology can help us to reduce runovers and backovers incidents in the work zone, identify the available technologies and its terminology, understand how too much technology can be a problem too. Okay, it's about technology also is about investment. You know, it's a little more expensive, but as I told you, it's an investment, not an expense. This investment can help you to improve safety and prevent an incident, if possible. There are a variety of technologies, old and new, that have been developed to warn drivers and operators when workers on foot are near, including alarms, cameras, radars, sonars, tag systems. Okay, this is a counterexample about technology, but it's important to share it. And this is the Uber case, the first victim of an Uber, our autonomous vehicle. You know, let me put it again. It's interesting because it's also helping us to realize how important is high visibility at night. If somebody is using a high visibility vest, he or she is going to be visible 1,000 feet distance. But if you are not using a high visibility vest at night, you are invisible inclusive for the computer that was driving this vehicle. This is an autonomous vehicle, just the first victim of an autonomous vehicle. So let's see the reaction of the person who was in the driver space in the car just in case, but actually the person is not driving the vehicle. He was just in case there was any emergency. Well, they have an emergency. So technology can help, yes, it is helping us, but what is the solution? It's interesting when we talk about this video, for example, you know what the engineers are going to do? They are going to improve the system. They are going to say, hey, we have this problem. We couldn't detect a pedestrian at this distance. What can we do? Maybe we need to add some sonars, radar systems, and so on to prevent this accident. So they are going to find a solution, and that's what the technology is doing. They are evolving. They are constantly creating new things and improving the things and finding deficiencies and solving problems. So now we have autonomous vehicles. I was in the Conexpo that happens 4 years ago, and Volvo was showing some models of autonomous vehicles working together, an excavator and a dump truck working together automatically, autonomously, without any operator, for example. In that way, they say, yeah, we can reduce incidents, yeah, but you can eliminate jobs too. So these are some problems that technology are bringing us now. So some terminology about these technologies, there is some technologies that work with proximity detection of personal vehicles and other objects near a machine using a sensor technology, or proximity warning, collision warning, detection of personal vehicles and other objects near a machine resulting in alarms. One operator, and nearby personnel to wait. For example, this tag system is interesting because we are asking workers on foot to use a sort of tag that they can attach to the bells or the hard hats, and these tags vibrate, similar to a cell phone. They vibrate, and it means for the worker, move immediately because you are in a hazardous position, a vehicle is backing up, and the same signal repeats to the operator. For example, the operator can feel it and see, well, we have an emergency, I have to stop. Of course, there are new technologies that are stopping the vehicle automatically. So there's a collision avoidance, the processing of sensor information resulting in control signals or actions that alter machine status movement to avoid a collision. Computer control, human control. As I told you, this is sometimes collision avoidance could be automatic. Proximity detection and independent or standalone system, network-based system requiring supporting infrastructure. Actions range from simple alarms to machine control, setting brakes, limiting movement. Let's see. So about proximity detection, we also have we have to think also about the backup alarm. Okay, backup alarm is usually providing this noise, beep 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 noise, and workers are complacent with this noise. Technologies are creating some new sounds that increase according to the distance of the hazard. So it can increase the sound just to call the attention of the worker, or they can use a sort of white noise now that is very focused on the person who is on risk, and they can be more willing to move, or instead of, because people, we did some studies, people become complacent with the regular beep beep beep. They don't take care about it, but they can be more alert if we provide another kind of sound. So we have some additional information here. Network-based systems, yeah, we are talking about more about GPS systems, for example. We have an increased situational awareness, visual, audible, tactical alarms, two-way alarm, human in the loop. we have several kind of technologies, but we have to think about also what is the effect of the technologies on the operator. Too much technology can be hazardous too, because it can distract an operator. For example, if we keep a screen on all the time to see what's happening behind the vehicle, we discover also that the operator become complacent with the screen and don't take care of the screen. But if the screen only turns on when there is somebody behind, there is a sensor detecting somebody and turns on, it calls the attention for the operator. So we need to select what technologies are we going to use and be very focused about it, because too much technology can create a problem for the operator too. Okay. Camera assistance, yeah, we have a lot of technologies in the market. And they are less expensive. They are becoming much less expensive now. There is a new device, for example, it's working with the cell phone. You just put a device behind your vehicle, and using a Bluetooth system, there is a communication between your cell phone with the camera that you install behind your vehicle, and they don't need to use any wires, for example, and you can see whatever is happening behind your vehicle without using any complex video camera system. So as I told you, we were taking good information from the mining industry with these big gigantic trucks. And yep, different kind of technologies that you can explore. Okay, we are finishing now our training. I have just a video that we shared yesterday to show you, to summarize all these things about technology.
A number of technologies are now being used to reduce the hazards caused by blind spots by enabling operators to see areas not viewable through mirrors and windows. These technologies include video cameras, sonar-activated warning systems, radar-activated warning systems, and tag warning systems. To most effectively use these technologies, they should be used in combination. For example, in a recent NIOSH study, researchers found that a radar system, which sends an audible alarm to the operator when something is detected in a blind spot, was most useful in prompting operators to look at their video monitor when the alarm sounded. In other words, an operator may not look at the video monitor when backing, unless he or she is prompted by an alarm to do so. Tag systems are relatively new to our industry, but the concept is very good. Instead of just making the operator aware of workers and objects in blind spots, tag systems are worn by workers on foot. If a vehicle is too close, both the worker and the operator are warned by the tag device. While not improving visibility, backing alarms can help provide warnings on noisy roadway construction sites. Often, backup alarms sound so frequently that many workers become indifferent. New alarm sounds are being used to cut through the other construction traffic noises and create sounds that will alert workers on foot to the dangers of construction vehicles. While cameras and alarm systems are now used widely in many industries, the technologies are only recently being designed for roadway construction sites. For example, cameras work well during warmer months, and daily cleaning of the lens is usually sufficient. In other environments, however, snow, dirt, oil, and grime build up on the lens quickly, such as during winter months. Some method of preventing snow, ice, and grime from covering the camera must be employed. There's a growing number of safety options to keep workers on foot from being struck by construction equipment. Take a few minutes to research your options. Get up to speed on the technologies available to you. Undoubtedly, as we improve communication, thousands of roadway workers will be protected from being struck by construction vehicle equipment. Follow the links from the National Work Zone Safety Information Clearinghouse at www.workzonesafety.org.
Okay, and with this video, we finish our preventive runovers and backovers course. So if you have any question, please, I will be happy to answer. If you want more information, Paula can send me any question or request you have about it. And we are going to give the word to Paula. So you have some questions for the students now. And please fill the test and evaluations you have. We are going to provide it to you, and Paula is going to give you more information about it.
Yes, so thank you, Robinson. So following this webinar, we are going to send out a evaluation, and then we're going to review the attendance for both sessions, and then those who attended both sessions should receive a separate email with instructions on how to complete the post test. Robinson, we do have a poll question here if you wanted to launch that while
Yes, please.
while this information is being provided. You all can go ahead and answer that. What plan does the MUTCD regulate? But again, that information is going to come out in two separate emails. We are recording this session as well. So at a later date, you will receive an additional email with information on how to access the links to this video and the previous one, if should you need to do that. Is there anything else you want to add?
Oh no, that's okay. Just in case we are working with the Federal Highway Administration and OSHA to provide not only this training but other trainings. If you want more information how to do it, we are providing it for free, and anybody can book a training. We need just 15 students per course and coordinate how are we going to do this training with your organization, and set it your time or book it in our schedule for future training. So if you want more information, maybe you can send me an email. Let me put my email here.
Hold on one second, Robinson. Go ahead and put that up. I'm just going to give you the results of the poll. So 7% said internal traffic control. No one chose urban traffic control. 27% said temporary traffic control. 0% said rural traffic control, and 67% voted for all of the above.
Good. Yeah, well, we are talking about the internal, the MUTCD controls a temporary traffic control plan. Okay. For the internal traffic control plan, we only have good practices and guidance, but temporary traffic control plan is the universe of the MUTCD. So, yeah. And if anybody has some additional questions, maybe they can send it to you, Paula, and you can send it to me, because I have some technical problems here to add any additional information to the presentation.
Sure, no problem at all. And again, we will send a follow-up email with links to the recording and also to the training documents provided in today's training.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paulo, for your cooperation, and thank you, everybody, for your attention. And I hope we can continue with another training. We are going to continue with another training next week about fall protection, I think, Paula.
I believe so.
So, yep. And yeah, Victoria told me that she's going to send the invitation, the advertisement to everybody, just in case we are going to have another training next week. I think it's going to be Tuesday and Wednesday, same hour. So yeah, about fall protection for roadway construction.
All right, thank you so much.
You are very welcome. And thank you, and have a nice day, everybody.